Hey everyone, and good afternoon. I'm Angelique Rewers, CEO and founder of The Corporate Agent, and this is our weekly live show, Lead Your Movement, where we talk to entrepreneurs and business leaders who are using their business platform in order to drive real change in the world. And that's really the key to this show. It's not just about talking about the theoretical ideas of what you should be doing. We're talking to the people who are out there really doing it. And that's exactly what we're doing with our incredible, amazing guest that we have for you today. John Lee Dumas has interviewed over 3,000 of the world's most successful entrepreneurs on his award-winning podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, which has amassed over 100 million listens, over 3,000 five-star reviews, and seven figures plus of annual revenue. John has spent the last 8 years studying and interacting with those who have reached the summit of business success, and he has created a 17-step roadmap that will guide you to financial freedom and fulfillment. One of the things he has found over the last 8+ years of leading his podcast is that there are many people who dream of creating a successful business and living a life of financial freedom, location freedom, and lifestyle freedom, but they're overwhelmed with the doubt and fears while lacking the knowledge of where to start. So his newest book, which is available for pre-order now, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, lays out the exact roadmap you need to unlock your potential and create the life you and your family deserve. Please help me welcome to the show the one, the only John Lee Dumas. John, it's so good to see you.
Hey, thank you for that amazing introduction, Angelique. Really means the world, and I'm excited to chat with you, your audience today. And I mean, I know there might be some live questions coming on here, so bring those on because we're watching and we will definitely engage.
I love it. I remember I was on your podcast back in 2016. I was actually nervous out of my mind. It was only the second podcast, John, that I had ever done. So that feels like a lifetime ago. But
And
let me
everybody
start by
knowing it, you were such a pro. You were
oh
such a pro. So if anybody wants to hear Angelique 5 years ago, rock the mic, EoFire.com, use the
5
search
years
bar,
ago.
type
Can you
in
believe that?
Angelique, and that interview will pop right up. And she was an all-star. Value
Oh, that's
bombs
awesome.
were
You
dropped.
your show was the first time that I actually told a story very publicly about a huge mistake that I had made in the business and how I got through that. So we'll come back to that.
Sure.
Let me start by asking you this, John. What's the movement that you're leading?
The movement I'm leading right now is getting people to a place of financial freedom and fulfillment. A lot of people think it's one or the other, and I think you need both. I really do. I don't believe you can truly be fulfilled unless you have financial freedom, because without the freedom financially to do what you want, when you want, where you want to do it, you're not going to be 100% fulfilled as a human being because you're always going to be marching to the beat of somebody else's drum. And then
Amen.
the flip side, like, unless you're financially free, like, you're just not going to be able to be fulfilled. You're not going to be fulfilled unless you're financially free. Like, they really go hand in hand. I tell you exactly why in this project we'll be talking a little bit about later. But to me, they go together like PB and J for all you peanut butter and jelly fans out there. So let's get financially free. Let's get fulfilled. It's the only way to live.
You know, you're speaking to my heartstrings on this because people love to say, well, it's not about the money for me. It's not about the money for me. But the money gives us choices. It gives us freedom. It means that we're saying no to things that we don't want to do. We're not taking on clients because we feel desperate. Give us a window a little bit into your life. Where are we I know where we're talking to today, but give us a look into the day in the life of John Lee Dumas, who's getting 1 million listeners a month on your podcast. Walk us through it.
Wasn't always where I'm at right now. So let me tell you about a couple seasons in my life that led to where I'm at right now. Season 1, in a spare bedroom. It was actually more of like a spare closet, if I'm being honest, in my 1-bedroom condo in Portland, Maine, back in 2012, launching this podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, just on a whim, not knowing what the heck I was doing. Fast forward a few years, I had moved to San Diego. Now I'm interviewing luminaries like Angelique and just other unbelievable people. You know, it's 2016. I'm 4 years in. I'm kind of in the second season of my life where the money's coming in. I'm excited. I'm loving it. It's a lot of hard work, but I'm still doing pretty well. To the end of 2016, being like, man, I'm literally writing a 7-figure check every year to the government which frankly, I'd rather be writing a 7-figure check every year to my favorite charity or philanthropic cause. So I decided to pick up from San Diego, which is a place I know, love, and definitely miss on some levels, and moved to Puerto Rico. And I've been here since 2016, living in our dream house. And by our, I mean myself and my fiance, Kate, here on the Caribbean, with our dog Gus, who's laying right here at my feet for all you golden doodle lovers.
Oh, I have a golden doodle too.
I mean, come on. When you have a golden doodle, you are immediately family. You know that. So that's amazing. And, I just absolutely loving life out here, living the Caribbean lifestyle, living the island lifestyle. And we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Still running this podcast, which of course I love, which is Entrepreneurs on Fire. Over 3,000 episodes, as Angelique mentioned in the intro, over 100 million total listens, over 1.4 million listens every month. And something that I'm really proud of too, because I am proud of the financial freedom that we've created. 89 months in a row, we have a net profit of over $100,000 net profit, which gives us financial freedom, which gives us fulfillment because we're doing the work that we love, because we get to choose to do what we want, where we want, with whom we want. Write big, fat 6-figure checks to our favorite charities every single year. Do amazing things like we did last year. Actually, it was 2 years ago. Build multiple schools in Guatemala, Laos, Cambodia. Go and visit those schools too with the ribbon cutting ceremonies and just seeing like what you can do when you are truly financially free. And like you mentioned the comment, I get it when people say money can't buy you happiness, but those people have never been able to hand a blank check to a cause they love and believe in, or just completely be that financial rock for somebody they know and love that's just in a terrible situation, and you can be there for them. So money necessarily can't buy the word happiness, but man, it can really bring you a lot of joy in your life when you do it right.
Yeah, I think that's the key too of doing it right. You're hitting the nail on the head too. It's about profit, right? The top line is for vanity, bottom line is for sanity. And that idea that you want to be able to keep it when you bring it in. And so much of what goes on out there, a lot of shenanigans that goes on out there in the entrepreneur space. John, you know about it. Let me ask you this though. I want to talk to you for a second about your platform. We talk a lot in our community about the importance of building a platform, because that's really one of the most profitable types of businesses that you can have today is having a platform. But it also allows you to impact the discussion, the discourse that's out there. You're driving it because you have a platform to do that, and so you're shaping the conversation. What advice do you have for people who are looking at, okay, now I know all the rage is Clubhouse, but they might be looking at podcasting saying, well, that ship sailed. There's no way I'd be able to build an audience that big, or YouTube sailed. What do you say to folks who want to cut through the clutter now and have a platform that is a must listen, a much watch, and really cut through the noise?
There's a very simple process to this, and it is alive and available for people every day. 10 years ago, today, 10 years from now, fill in the blank. Podcasting was amazing 10 years ago. It's amazing today. It will be amazing in 10 years. All the other platforms, very similar. Of course, some things come and go. There's cycles for everything. But the one thing that I want you to remember that will allow you to win on just overall content production, the platforms don't matter as much as the content you're producing. If you are providing the best solution to a real problem, you will win. If you're providing the second best solution to a real problem, you will lose. So what you need to do is identify a real problem in this world that you want to solve, find the best platform to deliver the best solution, and do that. And seriously, you will win. Does that sound simple? Yes, because it is simple. Stop overcomplicating stuff. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop procrastinating. Do what I said and drive forward, and you will win on whatever level it is that you want to win. I have this book that we'll talk about more later called The Common Path to Uncommon Success. That's what it's all about. Uncommon success, your version of uncommon success, getting to financial freedom and fulfillment, which for me is X, for Angelique is Y, for you is Z. And for somebody else that I know, very dear friends, is making $48,000, living on a lake in Bozeman, Montana, waking up every day, doing what they love, living within their means, loving life, uncommon success. You got it. It's just taking the right steps in the right order.
Let's talk about some of those steps because you've done 3,000 interviews. I don't have the exact statistic in front of me, but let's just say most podcasters don't get past, I think it's like episode 10, something to that degree.
90%
Most
stop
folks, if
before
they decide
episode.
they're going to go out and speak at conferences, they get, maybe 10 applications out and they quit. They do 10 webinars, they quit. Talk to me. I can't imagine in this book one of these steps, John, is not talking about sticking with something long enough to actually get good at it and get traction.
Consistency. You will win with consistency. You will lose with lack of consistency. And the reason why 90% of people that you're talking about fail is because they fail with consistency. They lack consistency. And why? Because they don't start with step one, which I'll be getting to in a couple seconds here. They just see what Angelique is doing or what JLD is
Mhm.
doing or what X, Y, or Z person is doing who's having success. And they say, oh, they're having success. I'm going to copy them. And then they are a weak, pale imitation of that individual and they will lose every single time. Are you providing the best solution to a real problem in this world? Back in 2012, there was no daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs.
Mm.
I knew that I wanted to listen to one. So that was a problem that needed to be filled. I didn't know if there was a million other people that wanted to listen to one, but I knew there was at least one, me. So I solved that problem with Entrepreneurs on Fire. It was the first daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. The day that it launched, it was the best daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. It was the worst daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs.
You guys, don't you love that?
Are you getting it? Getting it? I was the only daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. How can you be the only? How can you build a moat around your business that's going to make sure that you win and continue to win going forward? So step one,
Yeah.
identifying your big idea. You need to identify your big idea, not a weak, pale imitation of somebody else's big idea. You need to identify your big idea, your zone of fire. I'm living every day in my zone of fire. That's why I'm living
Love
my
it.
best life. That's why my business is generating multiple millions of dollars a year and has 8 years in a row. That's why I'm waking up in my home in the Caribbean, walking to my office and just loving what I'm doing. You are one of 8 interviews today, Angelique. I'm
Yeah.
loving every single one of these interviews because this is my zone of fire, talking to an amazing person in front of an amazing audience. I love doing this. This is not everybody's zone of fire. This is my zone of fire, and I'm doing it right now. So, what is your zone of fire? What is your big idea? You have to identify it. You're probably either A, gonna have to go back and wipe the slate clean and start over. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Stop having the sunk cost fallacy of just because something you started yesterday or the month before that you got to keep doing the rest of your life. Perfect example. I almost spent 40 years as a miserable lawyer because I did one semester of law school. Luckily, I dropped out,
Thank God for
got
the
a
world you dropped out.
got a clue, and found my zone of fire. I would be, Angelique, a terrible, miserable lawyer or an unbelievably happy, thriving, what do you want to call me?
Mm.
Podcaster, influencer, authority figure,
Influencer. Yeah.
whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter, but this is what I'm doing. This is my zone of fire.
Mm.
You who are listening right now, who are watching this, you have a zone of fire. Let's help you find it. So you're going back to the drawing board. Maybe it's a clean slate. Maybe you're close and it's just a tweak, a pivot, an adjustment. And then you can go forward and have an amazing life. Or maybe you can validate that you actually are living in your zone of fire. That's awesome too. It's going to be one of the 3. Awesome. Let's figure it out. Step 1, identify your big idea. So key. So many people
Mm.
never do it, Angelique, and they fail, fail, fail.
Love it. I love it. And when you identify that big idea, John, there are a lot of people who think you're crazy, especially if no one else is doing it. Back in 2009, when I decided to create the corporate agent, the C word corporate in the entrepreneur space was very toxic.
Yeah.
And our big idea was to create the business to be the best at solving the solution of professional service providers selling to corporate. But no one else was really doing it. There were sort of one or two old dinosaurs out there with old school stuff, but everybody thought we were a bit crazy. And I love what you're saying, because everyone's looking at like, well, what has everyone else done? And I need to go do what they're doing. No, you need to do what your big idea is. What's number two?
This is where most people screw up. They get their big idea and they're like, this is my big idea. Let's charge straight ahead. No, 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 no. Because guess what? I'm so glad you found your big idea. But as much as you want to believe it, your big idea is probably a fantastic idea. And I say that with honesty, which is a great thing. But if it's a fantastic idea, you're not the first person to discover that idea, to uncover that big idea. And so you want to jump in with the wolves, with the established wolves that are just chomping at the bits. They're crushing it. Your competition is entrenched and they're killing it because they're just loving that big idea as well, rightfully so, because it's a good idea. It's a great idea. It's a fantastic big idea. Step two, discover your niche. That
Mhm.
is you uncovering the void in your big idea that is not being served well. You can exploit that void. You can fill that void. You can become the best solution in that niche. And maybe it's a decent sized niche. Maybe it's a tiny little niche. You might have to niche down 3 times within your big idea. I call it niche down till it hurts. So you can
I
find
like
a
it.
real problem that you can solve in your big idea that nobody else is solving, or that people are solving poorly, and you can just dominate. You can be the best immediately. In 2012, Angelique, was I going to have this big idea of launching an interview based podcast? As early as 2012 was, there was a lot of great interview podcasts.
Mm.
There was a lot of great podcasts interviewing entrepreneurs. I niched down once into an interview podcast. I niched down again into interviewing businessmen and women. That still was super competitive. I niched down a third time and I said, I'm going to serve the void in the marketplace of the fact that every show that I'm seeing in the business interview space is weekly. I'm not going to go twice a week. That's not building a big moat around my business. I'm not going to go 3 times a week. I'm not going to go 5 times a week. I'm going to build a barrier so high that my competition is going to be so low. I'm going 7 days a week. I'm coming in and I'm going to be producing 7 times the content of my closest competition. I'm going to be the only daily podcast, the best, the worst, the only. Boom. That's my niche. It's the only reason why I won, Angelique, because I was a bad interviewer. I was not a good
Mhm.
podcast host. I did not know what I was doing, but I did it every day. So guess what? Pretty soon I got a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better.
Consistency.
By the time I interviewed you in 2016, I had done 1,500 episodes. Like, of course I was good then. Like, I'd put in the reps. I'd made it happen. And I was the only daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. I niched down into that. Otherwise, I would have lost. Step one, identify your big idea. Step two, discover the niche. There are 17 steps in this book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success. Each one is critical, each one is chronological. You need to follow the process if you're going to get to financial freedom and fulfillment.
One of the things that you're hitting on, and I know you've only shared two of 17 steps, John, but it's really clear right away. There is an engineering of success. And we talk about this with our clients all the time with the frameworks we teach and things like that. There's an engineering to it. It's done with purpose. It's not just accidental. It's not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and saying, "Oh, well maybe I'll be the best one." You actually looked at the market and said, how can I engineer this so that I'm building a moat around my business? What's not there? What can I create? What can I do to bake in a competitive advantage into what I'm doing that separates me from everyone else? And I think a lot of folks feel like, oh, this stuff just happens accidentally. And on occasion, look, lightning strikes, right? But most of the time, it's done very purposefully. Those of us who are winning in the market, we are proactively thinking about this stuff.
It's true. Got to be proactive. Got to be thinking ahead. You got to be surrounding yourself with the right people. This is actually a few steps deeper in, but one of the best things I did was find the right mentor. What did the right mentor help me do? She was a successful business podcast host. I wanted to be a successful business podcast host. She helped me see the future because she was living in the future. That was huge. That was everything. She connected me to the right people. She told me which potholes to avoid, which ones to go down. That was so key on every single level. That is a critical step in your common path to uncommon success is finding the right mentor. And just to sum it up in one sentence, that
Yeah.
is finding somebody who is currently where you want to be. So many people just find a mentor, but that person is not where they want to be. So they can't really help them along that path. Jamie was a successful business podcast host. She had been doing it for 18 months. She was perfect to guide me along the process because she had been there recently. She had made mistakes. She learned from them. She had connections. She had successes. She had wins. She could share all of that with me, guiding me every step of the way.
I love it. Okay, so you have 17 steps at the common path to uncommon success. There's 17. I know it's hard. It's like choosing a baby, one
It's
child
not
over
hard.
the other.
It's not
What's your
hard.
favorite one out of all 17? Like, what is your favorite step out of all of them?
It's not hard. Just like I feel like if I had 3 kids, I'd be able to be like, "You're my favorite," but that's just the kind of person I am. That's just the kind of guy I am, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't have kids, so that might not be possible.
That's great.
But, no, it's pretty funny.
That's great. I'm like, sorry, Brody. Chase is my favorite. Chase,
My
Brody's
fave
my
and hey,
favorite.
maybe you're putting a little burr under your other son or daughter, and, like,
Oh, I
maybe
love
they're,
it.
gonna be like, "I gotta earn this.
No, you would never be able to
I
choose,
can't
trust
just
me.
exist. I gotta become mom's favorite. I gotta do it." But listen, this book's 71,000 words. It's a monster. I mean, this book right here, this is a monster of content. It just has a lot. And I say this because, man, it's so much value in here. But about every chapter is around 3 to 5,000 words. I mean, that's kind of like your average length for a chapter. Chapter 7, step 7. I sat down to write it just like any other day, which by the way, as we mentioned pre-interview, every day for the first 2 hours of the day for 8 months, I
Mm,
wrote the book. This is not a week write, your best-selling book in a weekend that we both cringe at.
yeah.
This is pouring 3,000 interviews, a decade's worth of hard work, all of the knowledge that I've gained over this decade into a book, and that was 8 months. That was 480 writing hours. 480 writing hours to get to 71,000 words. And so I sat down for chapter 7 and I wrote. Next morning I wrote. Next week I'm like, this is still chapter 7? 13,500 words for this one chapter. Chapter 7, step 7, creating a content production plan.
Mm,
Man, I knew that the reason why I have a team of just 3 virtual assistants, I knew that we had good systems. I knew that we had a good plan. I knew that we had good automations and tools. I mean, we've been, again, generating $100,000 in net profit, in net after all expenses, net profit, 89 months in a row. I knew we were good there. This chapter showed me that we were great. I was like, "Oh, this is why we're winning at such a high level for such a long 89-month time frame. That is insanity. So consistent, such high revenue, such high profit margins, averaging over 70%, a lot of months over 80% net profits because of our content production plan. And this chapter is a book in and of itself. And you will learn so much on how to improve your content production from this chapter. Your head will pop off. And believe me, don't overthink what content production is. It is writing or speaking or video or audio or social media. It's just whatever you're doing to produce content. It specifically is the solutions you're providing to a real problem. That's it. But man, if you have the right plan and the right way to produce that content, you will win. You will be one of those consistent individuals that's around in 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, not those 10 episodes that Angelique said until you pod fade into the distance.
mm. So look, you've done over 3,000 interviews. You've been doing this since 2012. You've talked to really successful people. This book is So one of my favorite things in the world, and this came out of the corporate space that I was in, is you do something really well for a long time and then you package it up and you repurpose out of that and you build the next thing, and you just keep, it's just like a snowball that keeps growing bigger and bigger. And to me, that this book is the perfect example of you taking, an 8+ year track record and all that knowledge and putting it together in a new way so that people can really understand the path to uncommon success. Why, out of all these interviews that you've done, why do some people actually do it and some people don't? And I see that because John, success leaves clues. And so, we can pick up your book, we can read it. Some people will read the book and some people will do all 17 steps. Other people won't even finish the book. People will go to a seminar. Some people will take notes for 3 days. They'll go home, they'll put everything in. What is your hypothesis or belief about why some people actually stop whining, stop making excuses, stop using drama to distract themselves, stop creating all of these, other reasons why they can't move forward? And other people say a flip, like a switch flips, and they're like, no, I'm going to do it.
There are winners in this world, and there are not winners. Losers is such a hard term, so we'll kind of stay away from that phrase. But there are people who win at a very high level, and there are people who just don't win and never win. And those are the people that you just described, the people who whine, who moan, who complain, who hang out with whiners and moaners and complainers. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I end every single podcast episode with that quote. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Hanging out with whiners, moaners, complainers, people who hate their jobs, hate their life, or dislike their jobs, dislike your life or their life. You will dislike your life and dislike your job. You're the average. They make $40,000 a year, which nothing wrong with that number. A lot of people can live very happily on that and more. You'll make around $40,000,
Mm.
period. It's just the world that we live in. It is across the board. Are there exceptions? Of course, there's exceptions to every rule for you, person out there that's, jumping up and down right now. But the reality is this: the people who end up being winners, who achieve financial freedom and fulfillment, they have a real why. They know what their why is. For most people, frankly, it's their kids. I mean, that's such an easy why, obviously. I like people going a little deeper than that because just like, it's like, what are you
Too.
grateful for today? When you say your kids 74 times in a row, that's not really gratitude. That's just repeating the same thing, just like when you drive by the same beautiful vista every day,
Yeah, it's just
84
on
days in a row. It's
autopilot.
on autopilot. That's why actually one thing that I have in my journals is starting your day by saying, "What is one thing unique you are grateful for?" You have to put that word in because it makes you just think.
Mm,
Makes you maybe look around and just
so
think
good.
and dig a little deeper. That one word changes everything. And so
Yeah,
that's what I
that's
want
good.
people to realize, like, don't just, like, have the autopilot of my family because everybody says that, and your family's part of your why. I'm not counting that whatsoever. I know it is. But you've gotta go deeper than that because just that is what everybody says, and obviously everybody's not a winner. So if you wanna win at the game of life, and this is a game that can be won and is being won by a lot of people right now, you're looking at 2 of them, you have to have a real why. And then you learn from people. You watch content like this, you invest in yourself, not just, money. I'm talking about time too. When you have this book in your hands, this is 273 pages. Just like Angelique said, some people are going to start this book and they're never going to finish
Yeah,
and they're never going to win at the level they could otherwise win. There are going to be people that pick up this book, read it beginning to end, apply the 17 principles, follow the 17 steps, and they're going to win. They're going to
I
find
love it.
financial freedom. They're going to find fulfillment and they're going to pass that forward. They're going to win and they're going to help other people win as a result by inspiration, with motivation, just being an example of a possibility, and so much more.
I love it. And it's true. You have to have a why that's big enough to move you out of your inertia. and, just sort of repeating something that everyone else says. I mean, usually, not that your family's not a super important why, but usually if that was a big enough why, then so many more people would break out of inertia. So it has to be bigger than that. I want to put up the URL where folks can actually pre-order a copy. I actually pre-ordered mine for Kindle,
Yeah, you
which
did.
is awesome, and that I can do that. But now I'm sometimes I read books, John, twice. I'm reading them on Kindle, but I'm reading them in hard copy so I can make notes. I know that sounds a little OCD,
It
but
sounds like a winner to
oftentimes
me.
I have
Sounds like a
multiple,
winner.
so I'm like working both angles there. But you guys, if you guys want to share some love here for John, by all means, please do. I know some folks are getting ready to launch their podcast. I saw some comments about that,
Oh,
but uncommonsuccessbook.com is where, and I don't want to say, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth on this, John, but I'm pretty sure that if people are buying the book now, there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that they're getting as part of the pre-order in terms of some bonuses and things, right?
you need to take action. You need to pre-order. There's 5 bonuses that all disappear the day the book is released. Just one, by the way. One of those bonuses, I have 3. Oop, why is it upside down now? Let me flip that around. I have 3 amazing journals. The
Oh,
Mastery
that's
Journal,
beautiful.
the Freedom Journal, and these are faux leather.
Oh, man.
They're gorgeous. That one's upside down. Whoop, flip it over. Boom. The Podcast Journal for you podcasters out there.
Love it.
These are 3 of my best works I've ever done. I published the Freedom Journal in 2016. It's how to accomplish your number one goal in 100 days. The Mastery Journal a year later, how to master productivity, discipline, and focus. And then the Podcast Journal is how to create and launch your podcast in 50 days. Um,
Love
these
it.
3 journals, $150 of value. You can buy them on Amazon right now if you want. They're awesome. But let me ship them to you all for free. If you pre-order this book, 1 copy, I'm not making some 5 copies, 10 copies. Just order 1 copy of this book to change your life. I'm shipping all 3 of these journals to your door, to your doorstep if you're based in the United States of America. Outside, you get immediate access to the digital pack of these 3, which are
Awesome.
beautiful, fillable, gorgeous. There's 4 other insanely awesome bonuses. You can read about them right there, right there.
Love it.
uncommonsuccessbook.com. I have 5 amazing endorsements. Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, Neil Patel, Dory Clark, Erica Mandy, all personally read and endorsed this book. Super proud of that. You can see a video with more details about the book, descriptions, all the bonuses laid out there, and take action.
Mm.
Pre-order this book. Let me know that Angelique is where you found us, and we're going to reply back with some pretty awesome opportunities for you to access those 5 bonuses immediately. I'm shipping all 3 of these
Love
journals
it.
the minute we get an email from you guys after you pre-order the book, and you'll get the next step
Awesome.
when you do that. So uncommonsuccessbook.com. That's what it's all about. Angelique,
I
man.
love
Wow.
it. I didn't know I was getting those. I'm all excited
You
now.
lucky
I'm like, "Wait,
girl.
what am I getting?" I love that. I was like, "Of course I'm gonna buy the book. Of course, I wanna read the book." And,
And that's just one of
um,
the 5. Again, there's 4 others that you're getting as well, and you
I
can see
love
them
it.
all.
I love it. I had no idea. So you just totally made my day that I'm getting those awesome goodies. In fact, one I have, so I'm going to be able to gift the one because it's so fantastic to someone. This has been amazing. I'm really looking forward to diving into this. And like I said in an email I sent out this morning about this, John, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
And I think that, what's so great about this book is not just your success and what you're sharing, but the success of others and all of the wisdom that you've brought from 3,000 wildly successful people who've been on your podcast. It's just a phenomenal piece of work, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. We'll definitely be talking about it more in our group. Thank you for being here with us today. You are a total inspiration, and it's really an honor to have you on and to have this conversation.
Angelique, thank you so much, everybody. I wish you the
Absolutely.
best.
Awesome. Thanks, John. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a tight schedule today because we are actually going live later today again at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time today. We will be live in the Get Corporate Clients Facebook group for a very special hour-long discussion, training, dialogue with Jen Barley and Karen Sullivan of Kickstart Your Edge. And we're going to be talking about 2 things. We're going to be talking about how you win corporate coaching clients. So, for those of you who are in our tribe, if you will, at the corporate agent who are leadership coaches, executive coaches, or some other type of coach working with individuals, typically employees inside of organizations. How do you win those corporate coaching clients this year in 2021, the year of transition, as Mackenzie has coined it? I think that's a really accurate description, is the year of transition. So, how do you win coaching clients right now when it's a year of transition, when budgets have been slashed, when everything is a bit in disarray, and when coaching is getting a bit commoditized, right? There's so many coaches out there and more coming into the marketplace every single minute. And then we're going to talk about how do you keep those coaching clients. The last thing you want to do when you're a coach is go through the effort to win an amazing client only once you get your foot in the door to then find out that it's a once and done project. You paint it yourself right into a corner. They pigeonholed you, seeing you as just a sort of one dimensional solution provider. And now, once you're finished coaching that one team or delivering that one workshop or coaching that one problem employee, now you're back out in the parking lot without a client that is still buying from you. That's a really bad way to run a coaching business. So Jen and Karen and I are going to be talking about that as well, some of the things that you can do. It's going to be a phenomenal hour-long discussion from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern today in the Get Corporate Clients Facebook group. So we hope to see you guys there. And we will be back next Wednesday with Lead Your Movement with one of my very first mentors, a very special woman who has accomplished big things and changed many, many people's lives, and who helped change my life all the way back in 2008. So it will be a very special discussion next Wednesday as well. We hope to see you there. And in the meantime, we'll see you at 3 p.m. Eastern today in the Get Corporate Clients Facebook group. I'll see you guys there.